Picture this, April 23rd, 1981. You've put away your winter coat. The daffodils are blooming. Easter just passed with warm sunshine, and then the sky turns white. Snow in April. Not a light dusting that melts by lunch. Proper snow, the kind that buries cars and shuts down motorways. Snow that shouldn't exist this late in spring. For 4 days, Britain battled a blizzard that belonged in January, not April. And nobody was ready for it. Not the farmers whose newborn lambs froze in fields. Not the drivers stranded on the M4 for hours. Not the families who'd packed away their thick jumpers only to dig them out again. This was the snowstorm that took everyone by surprise. The April freeze of 1981. It started quietly. Mid-April had been lovely. Temperatures reaching 20 degrees in some places. The warmest first half of April in 20 years. People were out in short sleeves. Gardens bloomed early. Trees covered in fresh new leaves. Winter felt like a distant memory. Spring had arrived properly, and Britain was enjoying it. Then, on April the 20th, Easter Monday, everything changed. Cold air swept down from the Arctic. The wind turned northerly, bitter. The temperature dropped sharply. And by April the 23rd, that cold air collided with a low-pressure system moving in from the west. The result? Snow. Heavy, wet, relentless snow falling across a country that had already moved on to spring. Dalwhinnie in the Scottish Highlands recorded -11 degrees on the night of the 23rd, in April, the coldest late April temperature since 1908. Down in Birmingham, the thermometer struggled to reach 3 degrees between the 24th and 26th. Normally, by late April, you'd expect 16 degrees, warm enough for a light coat. Instead, people were scraping ice off car windscreens and their breath misting in their own kitchens. The snow fell hardest on April 25th and 26th, 20 centimetres overnight across southern and western England and Wales. Gloucestershire buried under 66 centimetres, over 2 feet of snow. The Peak District saw 60 centimetres of level snow. But the drifts were the real problem. 20-foot-high walls of white across Derbyshire and Staffordshire, 6 metres in some spots. Roads vanished completely. Your dad woke up that morning expecting spring. Instead, he opened the curtains to everything buried in white. The garden fence gone, the car invisible. Snow piled against the front door so thick you couldn't push it open without shoveling first. And this wasn't light powder. This was wet, heavy snow, the kind that weighs a ton and breaks things. Trees that had just grown new leaves bent under the weight. Branches snapped, the sound carried through every street. Crack, thud, another tree damaged, years of growth ruined in one night. At first, the snow fell in showers, and because the April sun still had strength, it melted quickly during the day. People thought that was it. A few flurries, nothing serious, but on the 25th and 26th, everything changed. The snow became persistent, heavy, and it stopped melting. The strong spring sun couldn't compete with the sheer volume falling from the sky, layer upon layer piling up faster than nature could clear it away. Cities got hit hard too. Birmingham saw 10 centimetres settle in the streets. York got the same. Urban areas that rarely saw serious snow even in winter now had pavements buried and traffic stopped completely. Your mum's bus didn't run, your dad's train cancelled, and if you worked in a city centre office, getting there meant walking through conditions you'd expect on a Scottish mountain, not a Midlands high street. Power cuts hit across the country. Snow and ice on overhead lines brought them down. Whole streets went dark. No heating, no hot water. Families huddled around coal fires if they were lucky enough to have them. Candles flickered in windows, sometimes for hours. And outside, the wind howled, pushing the snow sideways, piling it higher against walls and hedges. But here's what made being cut off truly scary in 1981. Phone lines went down. The weight of wet snow snapped cables across entire regions. And this was before mobile phones, before the internet. If your line went dead, you had no way to call for help, no way to check on elderly relatives, no way to know if the doctor could get through. People were cut off completely, some for days, sitting in cold, dark houses with no connection to the outside world. The M4 motorway became a car park. Drifts up to 1.5 meters blocked entire sections. Drivers sat trapped in their vehicles for hours. Some abandoned their cars and walked to nearby villages, trudging through knee-deep snow in shoes meant for spring. The Snake Pass in Derbyshire shut down completely. Risk of avalanche, they said. In Britain, in April, nobody could quite believe it. Farmers faced devastation. April is lambing season. Newborn lambs, days old, caught in freezing temperatures and blizzards. Out on Dartmoor, sheep huddled against stone walls, trying to shelter from winds that felt razor sharp. Some didn't make it. Farmers found them frozen stiff in the morning, mothers standing guard over lambs that never stood a chance. Cattle struggled too. Spring calves, born into mild weather just days before, now facing Arctic conditions. Farmers worked around the clock, bringing animals into barns, spreading extra straw, doing everything possible. But you can't fight nature when it turns this cruel. Livestock losses mounted, the cost devastating for families already on thin margins. Your mum had packed away the winter clothes, the thick jumpers, the wool coats, the scarves, all folded neatly in storage. Now she was pulling them back out, muttering about the weather never making sense. Children who'd been playing outside in t-shirts the week before were wrapped back into layers. Wool hats, gloves, winter boots dug out from the back of cupboards. Schools struggled to stay open. Some closed when staff couldn't get in. Others stayed open, but half empty, with only local children able to make it through the snow. Teachers who lived miles away simply gave up trying. Buses cancelled, roads blocked, so classrooms sat quiet while children at home stood at frosted windows, watching the snow pile higher. But kids being kids, they made the most of it. Snow in April felt like a gift. School might be closed, but sledges came out. Every hill in Britain had children racing down it. Tea trays stolen from kitchens, baking sheets borrowed without asking. Anything that could slide got used. Snowball fights erupted on every street. Snowmen built in gardens still decorated with spring flowers. The contrast was surreal. Daffodils buried under snow, cherry blossoms frozen solid on branches heavy with white, tulips poking through drifts. Spring and winter collided, and the result looked like something from a dream. Beautiful, in a strange, harsh way. And through it all, communities pulled together. Neighbours checked on each other. Are you all right? Do you need coal? Got enough milk? Strangers helped push cars, cleared paths for elderly folk who couldn't manage. The same spirit that had carried Britain through harder times kicked in. When nature attacks in April, you don't complain. You help. Thunder rolled on the 24th and 26th. Thunder snow, that rare, eerie phenomenon where lightning flashes through falling snow. The sky lit up white against white, thunder booming across the Pennines, the southwest, even down to Salisbury Plain and the Cotswolds. 40-mile-per-hour winds pushed the snow sideways. Visibility dropped to nothing. Stepping outside felt like hitting a frozen wall. Then, on April the 27th, as suddenly as it arrived, the cold collapsed. High pressure moved. Milder air returned from the west. The snow began melting, fast, and that's when the next problem started. Flooding. All that snow, 60 centimetres deep in places, turned to water almost overnight. Rivers burst their banks. The East Midlands saw the worst flooding since 1947. Streets became rivers. Homes took on water. Fields turned to lakes. The ground, frozen solid for days, couldn't absorb the melt, so the water ran. Down hills, through towns, into homes. Families who'd just survived a blizzard now faced flood damage. Carpets ruined, furniture soaked. The clean-up would take weeks, and all because of 4 days of snow that should never have happened. The April snow of 1981 became a story told for years. The blizzard nobody saw coming. The time winter came back in spring when it should have been warming up. And yet Britain got through it, with shovels and stubbornness, with neighbours who became friends, with a laugh about the weather being completely mad, because that's what we do. We adapt, we carry on, and we remember. If you remember that snow, drop a comment, share your story, and subscribe to keep these memories alive.